Early voting for Korea's local elections began this morning. Polling stations will remain open until 6 p.m. tomorrow, and eligible voters can cast their ballots at any of the early voting locations nationwide, regardless of their registered address. Korea and the United States plan to hold a two-day security meeting in Seoul starting next Tuesday for follow-up consultations on commitments outlined in the recent joint fact sheet signed in November, following the summit between Presidents Yi and Trump. U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reportedly reached a tentative deal to extend their ceasefire and begin nuclear talks. Still, U.S. President Donald Trump has yet to sign off on the agreement, and Iran has not officially confirmed it has accepted the deal. Korea's first local elections of the Lee Jae-myung administration are now underway as early voting began today at 6 a.m. For more on this, we have our political correspondent An Sung-jin at one of the locations. Sung-jin, tell us where you are.
Good afternoon, Eunji. I'm currently standing at a community center in Yongsan-gu District, Seoul, where early voting is taking place. I've been out here since 7 a.m., a little past an hour since opening at 6 a.m. We've been seeing a steady amount of people come in during the early hours, either before work or on their way from a morning routine. There are around 3,570 early voting locations, and the latest early voting rate as of midday Friday is at 4.86%, with the Jeonnam-Gwangju region seeing the highest voter turnout rate. Many have come with hope that their ballot will help decide the future of their local area. Have a listen to what some of the voters who came out in the early hours had to say.
I've come out early after working out. I hope good, capable people get elected so the country can do well and move in the right direction.
I already had plans on election day, so I decided to vote early today. I voted hoping the country can move forward without becoming more divided.
Right, then Sung-jin, for those who would like to participate in today's early voting, what should they keep in mind?
Right, polling stations opened at 6 a.m. and will remain open until 6 p.m. both today and tomorrow. For early voting, eligible voters may vote nationwide regardless of their registered address, but they must bring a government-issued ID. Most of the voters will receive 7 ballots, but for voters holding a parliamentary by-election will receive an additional ballot. The National Election Commission says live video footage of ballot storage facilities will be made available to the public around the clock. Monitoring ballot storage conditions through live screens for regional election commission offices will also be available. While local elections determine regional leadership, they are also widely viewed as something of a midterm test for the central government. As recent polls show narrowing gaps between ruling and opposition party candidates in several key battleground regions, candidates will continue their campaigning till one day before voting day next Wednesday. That's all I have for now, but I will be back in our later newscast with our updates.
All right, that was our An Sung-jin standing by live at an early voting location. Meanwhile, Korea and the United States will hold a two-day inaugural meeting in Seoul next week to launch follow-up consultations on security commitments outlined in the allies' recent joint fact sheet. The talks will take place on June 2nd and 3rd and bring together senior officials from diplomacy, defense, energy, nuclear safety, and technology agencies from both countries. Seoul's delegation will be led by First Vice Foreign Minister Park Yun-ju, while the U.S. side will be headed by Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Alison Hooker. The consultations are expected to focus on implementing bilateral security and strategic cooperation measures discussed during the Korea-U.S. summit, amid efforts to modernize the alliance in areas including advanced technology, energy security, and extended deterrence. A draft of the National Defense Authorization Act submitted by the U.S. House of Representatives for the fiscal year 2027 contains strengthened restrictions on the use of funds to reduce the number of U.S. Forces Korea troops. Released by the House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mike Rogers on Friday, the NDA for fiscal year from October this year to September next year says that no funds authorized under the Act may be obligated or expended for the purpose of reducing the number of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea below 28,500. The new draft also specifies that no funds provided under the Act or any other funds made available during fiscal years 2026 or 2027 may be used to reduce the number of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea. A joint live-fire exercise showcasing the Korean military's major combat assets to the public was held on Thursday. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung was at the site.
With the enemy launching a surprise barrage attack, the joint live-fire exercise begins in front of hundreds of civilians gathered to watch the Korean military's firm readiness and capability. With a great number of drones and physical AI robotic donkeys playing active roles, the training showed how manned, unmanned integrated systems are being deployed on real battlefields. This is the very first joint live-fire exercise under the Lee Jae-myung administration, with major Korean military assets taking part, including drones and a helicopter on display behind me. The joint live-fire drill took place in front of 1,900 citizens in total over 3 days, including Thursday. Such a drill involving the Army's major assets was first launched in 1977, and this year marks its 13th edition. The exercise was not held during the Moon Jae-in administration, but resumed in 2023 under the government of Yoon Suk-yeol on the largest scale ever. With the drill back after 3 years, a total of 1,400 personnel from 27 Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps units participated, with more than 450 pieces of equipment of 96 different types deployed.
Through this joint live-fire exercise, our military demonstrated its commitment to self-reliant defense and its ability to conduct multi-domain operations using drones, AI, and advanced technology. The exercise also showcased the excellence of Korea's advanced domestic weapon systems to the world.
Citizens say they were able to learn more about the ROK Armed Forces.
I learned a lot about our military. I didn't know it had such strong firepower. It was exciting and my heart was racing. The tanks firing was the most memorable part. It was really impressive.
The Apache helicopter flew so close that I felt tense, like it might be coming toward me. It was really exciting.
I think our country is amazing. I also want to become a soldier like that someday.
With the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps operating as one team and integrating manned and unmanned combat systems, the Korean military is strengthening joint operations and enhancing its self-reliant defense capabilities. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The United States and Iran appear closer to a tentative deal aimed at ending the war, with signs of a possible shift in Tehran's stance on nuclear talks. But final approval is still needed, with U.S. President Donald Trump yet to give the green light. Our Kim Jun-ho reports.
The United States and Iran have tentatively agreed to a 60-day memorandum of understanding to extend their ceasefire and launch talks on Iran's nuclear program. Citing U.S. and regional sources involved in the mediation, Axios reported Thursday local time that most terms had been settled on as of Tuesday. Still, U.S. President Donald Trump has yet to sign off on the deal, and Iran has not officially confirmed its acceptance. The proposed MOU would ensure free passage through the Strait of Hormuz with no shipping tolls, and Iran required to clear all mines within 30 days. U.S. naval blockade would also be eased gradually, in line with the recovery of commercial shipping traffic. On the nuclear front, Iran would pledge not to pursue nuclear weapons, while initial talks during the 60-day period would focus on Tehran's highly enriched uranium and enrichment activities. If nuclear issues move forward, Washington in return would discuss sanctions relief, frozen asset releases, and humanitarian support for Iran. But if Iran fails to deliver on nuclear commitments, Trump warned that both economic and military options remain in play. Key sticking points still need to be resolved, with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance saying Thursday that talks with Iran were close but not there yet.
And we're in a position where we could substantially step back their nuclear program, not just during the term of this president, but over the long term. That's a very, very good thing for the American people. So we're not there yet, but we're very close. We're going to keep on working at it.
Yet tensions remain high as sporadic clashes continue. Iranian media reported Thursday local time that the military launched a missile from southern Iran toward an unidentified target, while an explosion was reported near the Strait of Hormuz. Some sources also raised the possibility of a maritime clash in the Persian Gulf. Amid the tensions, Pakistan's foreign minister will visit Washington Friday local time for talks with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, with regional security expected to be on the agenda. Kim Jun-ong, Arirang News.
Israel has carried out its first airstrike on the Beirut area in nearly 3 weeks, targeting a commander linked to an Iranian militia operating alongside Hezbollah. The strike comes despite weeks of reported pressure from the Trump administration to avoid attacks on the Lebanese capital during a fragile ceasefire. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
The Israeli military says it carried out an airstrike Thursday local time in the southern suburbs of Beirut, marking the first Israeli strike on the Lebanese capital area in nearly 3 weeks amid escalating tensions with the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. An Israeli security source identified the target as Ali al-Huzni, the head of the missile force in the Imam Hossein division, an Iranian militia that operates alongside Hezbollah. It remains unclear whether he was killed. The Israeli military said additional details would be released later. According to Lebanese media, the strike hit the Shuwaifat area just south of Beirut. Lebanese security officials said 2 precision missiles targeted a building in the capital's southern suburbs. There was no immediate comment from Hezbollah or Iran. Israeli officials say the military had refrained from carrying out strikes in Beirut for the past 3 weeks following requests from Washington. However, Israeli surveillance drones have continued flying over Beirut on a near-daily basis. 2 Israeli security sources said Thursday's operation came after what they described as very intense dialogue with the Trump administration in recent days. The strike was the first on Beirut since May 6, when an Israeli attack killed Ahmad Galeb Bailut, a commander in Hezbollah's elite Radwan force. The latest attack deals another blow to a ceasefire announced by Washington on April 16th that was meant to halt months of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Middle East war is beginning to weigh on Korea's real economy, with production, consumption, and investment all declining in April. The Ministry of Data and Statistics said this morning that industrial production across sectors fell 0.6% from the previous month, marking the first decline in 3 months. Petroleum refining output plunged about 19%, marking the sharpest decline in 37 years. Auto production fell 10%, while in contrast, semiconductor output rose more than 3%. Domestic demand and investment also showed weakness, with both the retail sales index and facility investment falling 3.6% from the previous month. Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul, however, described it as a temporary base effect due to high growth in previous months, adding that a prompt turnaround is expected from May as consumption and exports remain strong. Samsung Electronics has begun shipping samples of its latest high-bandwidth memory chip, becoming the first in the industry to supply 12-layer HBM4E samples. The chip giant said it has started delivering the latest memory chip to major clients following the launch of mass production for HBM4 in February. Samsung said the new HBM4E offers faster speeds and greater bandwidth than its predecessor, while also improving capacity and energy efficiency. It added that mass production and supply will move forward in line with customer schedules following the sample rollout. As climate talks face growing pressure from wars, energy shocks, and industrial rivalry, Korean experts say Seoul has more room to shape the global response. Our Oh Soo-young reports from a Climate and Energy Forum in Seoul.
Korea must play a larger role in global climate diplomacy amid weakening leadership in an increasingly contested world. That's according to experts and officials attending a forum in Seoul hosted by the Seoul International Law Academy.
The forum comes at a time when climate and energy issues are increasingly intersecting with trade, technology and security concerns, prompting fresh questions about the kind of role countries like Korea can play.
Because of the so-called return of the geopolitics, suddenly people seems to not to understand the important context of climate change, and then there are shift of focus on the energy security and economic security these days, especially in Korea.
Professor Chong So-young also leads the Center for Climate and Sustainable Development Law and Policy, which has been working to bring climate policy into the mainstream of Korea's diplomatic strategy.
Climate should be placed as umbrella framework by providing the visions and the long-term strategies. Underneath, we can only talk about short-term issues on energy security and economic security. We need to consider nexus approach among the climate security, energy security, and economic security.
Former Vice Foreign Minister An Oh-young warned that geopolitical crises are increasingly overshadowing cooperation. He cited how the US had left the Paris Climate Agreement and how since the start of the Ukraine war, Europe has been grappling with an energy crisis.
Now the war going on in Iran, and then because of that, everybody's talking about how to manage supply of energy, supply of other critical minerals. So that, I think, is the reason why countries like Korea, that is to say mid-power countries, we must get together to deal with large number of global issues.
Anne said such countries can keep practical coalitions moving when global leadership weakens.
How to promote fight against climate change through technology, through financing, and through capacity building. And that, in fact, is the approach which was adopted by the global community back in 2015. Korea, in fact, should be very much in the center of international efforts among like-minded countries. They are like-minded countries who understand the importance of energy, but at the same time who also understand it should be balanced. Supply of energy should be balanced with fighting climate change.
The forum featured presentations on energy security and emissions reduction, followed by a broader discussion between government officials, academics, industry experts and media. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
This is the world now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. In Switzerland, a man stabbed 3 people at a train station in the Swiss city of Winterthur on Thursday in what police called, quote, an act of terror. The suspect is a 31-year-old Swiss-Turkish dual national who had been flagged in 2015 for distributing Islamic State propaganda. Investigators believe the man acted alone. Days before the attack, he was briefly held at a psychiatric facility after making alarming calls to police, but was released on Wednesday after being cleared as non-dangerous. 2 victims were discharged from hospital. The third underwent emergency surgery. In Kenya, a fire at a girls' boarding school killed at least 16 students and injured 79 others. The fire started just after midnight on Thursday. Doors on the upper floor where the blaze started were initially locked, and some students died after jumping from windows trying to escape. Several survivors told first responders a student had set fire to a mattress, though authorities have not confirmed the cause. The school has more than 800 students aged between 15 and 18. The U.S. Treasury has launched the Trump Accounts app nationwide. The app went live on Thursday, allowing parents to open investment accounts for children born between 2025 and 2028 with a $1,000 government seed deposit that will reportedly be deposited from July 4th. Parents, family members, and employers can contribute up to $5,000 annually, with funds automatically invested in a low-cost index fund with gains only taxed when withdrawn. The app was built with trading platform Robinhood and custodian bank BNY. An Austrian court sentenced a 21-year-old man to 15 years in prison on Thursday for plotting an attack on Taylor Swift's Vienna concerts in August 2024. The defendant planned to target crowds outside the stadium with knives and explosives. Authorities raided his home the day before the scheduled performances and found bomb-making materials. The planned attacks forced the cancellation of all 3 shows. A second defendant in the same case received a 12-year sentence. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
The summer-like heat is building once again today under bright sunshine and mostly clear skies. After a breezy start this morning, temperatures are now rising quickly across the country. Temperatures will continue climbing day by day, and more regions are expected to rise above 30 degrees Celsius as we head into Sunday. And again, strong sunshine will push UV levels very high nationwide. Along the south coast and in Jeju, UV levels could even reach the extreme category during the day today. So sunscreen, hats, and plenty of water will definitely be essential today. And ozone levels are also expected to worsen this afternoon. And during the day, Seoul and Daejeon will be getting up to 28 degrees Celsius. Gyeongju, Gwangju topping out at 27 degrees. Isolated showers are possible later today in inland western Gyeongsang-Namdo province. Then warm and mostly sunny days will continue through next week, with afternoon highs hovering around 30 degrees in the capital.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.